Welcome to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois.
Welcome back to your next episode. Really excited to check in and see how things are going. Maylin, I know you've been working on quite a few different things. So I figured this episode could be kind of a what's up with Maylin.
I love her so
much. What do you think
much.
About that?
I think it's a great episode.
I feel like you've been working on some new routines. You're doing some different things. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Maylin lately, but she looks like a whole new person. She's really out here giving like, what year did I meet you? I met you.
I was in my early 30s, late 20s.
She's giving early 30s vibes right now.
Yeah, really late 20s. The way I feel. No, I mean, like you, trying to manage a lot of things. My biggest journey now is motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been even thinking about how do I even share what I'm going through and what I'm learning, because it's very different to be a mom at 42 than being a mom at 20. And even though I thought I was ready by 20, I don't think that you ever 100% ready to be a mother, no matter like what, right? You read, I am grateful that I'm a mother now because of where I am and my stability, but it's still a lot of work. And usually, and I've been very blessed. I had an amazing support system. Like my aunt and my mom helped me for the first year with Jaira. Then this year, my mom, helped a lot. She's going through some health things that we're working through. And I, for the first time, over a month ago, kept my son just like myself, right? So I don't have daycare because I don't trust it yet. He's too little. He's not eating solids or speaking, so I don't feel comfortable leaving him just anywhere, specifically when he's been with family only for this long. And he's a very, like, almost shelter kid, right? Like, he's very used to just being with family, very happy. But, he has to eat a certain thing at a certain time. And even though I'm extremely busy, right, because I oversee a couple of things, it takes a toll on you. Because I want to be an amazing mom, and I want him to feel loved and to feel that he's not a burden because he's not. I made a choice to be a mom. That was my choice. But then also I have responsibilities that I have to take care of and I have to manage well to continue to give him a good life, right? So I think that balance, I don't know that people talk about it, or maybe I missed the blogs about it, but I find myself wondering how many other women or men are in that juggle, right? At this time in their life of handling careers, right? Businesses, and then also the small life, and how do you do it well without feeling, like you're failing at one of the things, and for me, like my routines now, I wake up like 6 a.m., 5:30 to make all his meals, because he eats puree. So I have to wake up before he wakes up. So let's say in the morning he wakes up about 5, I give him a bottle of milk, and then he continues to sleep. He's like, he has the best life. And then I wake up, I go to the kitchen, I make my coffee. I try to use something else with Stella. That was a big fail, epic fail.
Really?
Epic fail.
You're trying to switch coffee?
I tried. That was really like a lunatic moment. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, something ain't right. My whole life is shattering. I went back to Ustello the next week. So I am back in my life now. And I make his meal. So I make his breakfast. I make his lunch. I make his milk. And all those things have to happen in a span an hour or two. And then prepare them for the day, And then that way, no matter how busy I am, I have always that package and he can eat at a certain time and all of those things. So that is that. You still have life. So sometimes in meetings, I'm actually feeding him. So either if my camera's on, you can see my hand like stretching to the side. Like you can just see my hand. You think I'm doing like an exercise wheel. I'm trying to feed this child. When I'm in meetings, sometimes he wants to talk also. When he never, like usually he's very quiet. But usually when I'm in meetings, like my bird Gabby, he wants to say, like, make some certain sounds, And what I'm learning with corporate or with work and all of that stuff is that, and after the pandemic, we had to become more understanding and compassionate to our parenthood. Because before you'd be like, and I probably was guilty, it's like, what are you doing, right? Like, this is a professional. And now it's like, oh, you got your kid, you got to feed it, no problem. You know, if people turn off their camera, you're good to go. Like, you do what you got to do, right? Like, the work has to get done, but you still have a family you got to take care of too. So that balance, I've been trying to be more compassionate to myself with it and to my people that I oversee, because I can only imagine and, you know, how difficult it is. And I think sometimes for me, maybe it's a little bit more challenging, as some of my team members say, is because I oversee so much, you know, so I don't get to like, I don't, you know, some people when they're like coordinators, they may not see the big people. They don't have to work with the government as much, but I have to interact with so many people on a daily basis that I don't have the luxury to just be like, you know, I don't have to get on a Zoom call. Right. Like I'm in 20,000 team calls a day. So that has been a thing. And I just been evaluating, thanking God every day, but also evaluating, you know, to some of our earlier episodes, like, what am I doing right? Continue to do that. What could I be doing better and enhance that? And then ultimately what makes me happy, and showing that to Jaira, right? Like what makes mommy happy and making him happy, but really looking at myself. So I have worked really hard in the last year to take care of my health. You know, investing, it's an investment. An investment to work on my health, to make sure that I'm healthy enough to support him and to be able to do the work that we have to do. Because this, you know, if I'm not in a healthy state of mind, I can't do well. So I knew I had to invest somewhere. And other things that I was trying wasn't working. So I invested in myself. I had Jaira. Jaira took me to 230 pounds almost. And then right after I had him, I was able to lose like almost 20, 30 pounds. So that I was at 200. And then now I would just weigh myself, I was 149, right? So I have lost a lot of weight, which is great. That was my goal, 150. So I reached my goal. And then now is, how do I stay physically fit, right? So like the working out and adding like the cardio, but also the weightlifting, because for women, as I'm learning a lot, I'm doing a lot of research, weightlifting is very important for us. So we need to start incorporating more weightlifting into our workouts, even more than cardio, because we walk too much already as it is. Okay. But if we're not doing like the strength training and stuff like that, that doesn't help our muscles as we're getting older. So we have, especially now that we're getting in our 40s, we want to get that weight training into our routine. So now that I got my goal weight, because I also couldn't do too much, because if you add too much, I'm learning, you're not successful. So I said, focus on your weight goal first. I got that. I said, good. Now you have that. Yeah. Now let's make sure we're getting our water in. Okay. And let's make sure that we incorporate some weight training. Yeah. Into it. Because I'm already like a little running, a Speedy Gonzalez in my house, running from place to place, getting stuff for Jaira. So I think like my cardio is pretty great. You know, what I need to get down now is my strength training. So I've been working on that. So kind of like that is where my mind has been. And to your point, right? Like, how can I utilize some of the gifts that I know that God installed in us to help other people, but also be able to create a living out of that unapologetically. Yeah. Right? Because I think that's one of the things that I think about, what people come for me for all the time. I get text messages all the time about all kinds of things, people looking for support in certain ways. And because I cannot be that to everyone, how can I put that, right, somewhere in what we're doing to then support people that way, but then also create the leverage that I need to be a more present mom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're doing a great job being a mom. I mean, you are. I mean, you already naturally had all of the caregiver, empathetic, all of the attributes that I think some people worry if they're gonna have. You were already naturally that person. Like, you already had that in you, and you had been working with youth for so many years, and being around, you've got tons of nieces and nephews, and I have children, and so you were already like, you were an unofficial mother for so long. And so
I was a stepmother at one point.
You were a stepmom for a while. And you did all of that energy work when you were pregnant with Jaira. Because I remember when you first told me you were doing it, I'm like, what kind of new age? What? But it was so helpful because you had such a peaceful, like,
delivery. You were
pregnant. Like, even with your pregnancy, like, minus like some of the other loquera that really didn't have anything to do with you, but like physically you were healthy. He was good like the whole way. Like you had a very just like peaceful delivery. I mean, he was born so quick, and you came out. The only reason you got a little sick was because they gave you too much medicine.
They
did. They gave you a little too much, but
the anesthesia probably.
Yeah, it was the anesthesia that you had, but like you had and it was because of all the pre-work that you had done in preparation for his delivery. And I mean, Jaira is such a happy baby. Like I watched him by myself for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I think it was, or 3. I don't know how many. Time goes by so fast. And I went to Maylin's house, and I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, do like whatever you gotta go do, right?" So I was like, she was only gonna be gone, I thought like an hour or two, and so Jaira just literally was like, he had his certain programs he wanted. And then I had a conference call that was coming up. And so, like, I kept, like, looking over because he was just so chilled. Like, he just was like, doo-doo-doo-doo. I got his bottle. And then I was trying to feed him. And he was like, I don't want that. And so then it was like, okay, I'll let your mother deal with that when she gets here. And then I laid him down for a second. He never went to sleep, but he laid there for a little bit, looked at his program, had a nice poopy diaper for me. And just literally, like, he cried once, but it was because I think he pooped. That's what it was.
He wanted to be changed.
He was like, because I quickly, like, when I was like, okay, I know what's going on here. And so but he was so chill. And he's just always looking around. Like, he's so observant, and he's so, like, he likes, like, certain music sounds. And he is just a very chill baby. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think it's a big part of just like who you are, all that pre-work you did, and the environment that you've been very intentional. Like, as you mentioned earlier, like you're still kind of like trying to figure out like what's appropriate for him, like, who you want to have him around. And Jaira just definitely, like, he's just coming into his own, and he's just like, he's in no rush. He's like, I'm chilling.
I'm gonna crawl when I want to crawl.
Exactly. I'm gonna just start running, and then I'll eat when I'm ready. And and some kids are just naturally like, all 3 of mine were very different, and there was one in particular where she just didn't want to, and then one day she did, and then that was just it. And then Jaira just gives me the same like, maybe not today. Like, he's just like. Very just like, you're not gonna rush me. Great baby.
Thank you. He's great. And I think as a mother, and something that I would tell parents, and I don't know who needs to hear this, but I feel like sometimes you have to give yourself grace in this process, right? Especially at this age, because a lot of your friends already have grown-up kids, right? So like you're like one of the few ones with like the babies. And it's great because this is your time. Yeah. I also know that I only want one child, and I think it's crazy because when I was in my 20s, I wanted 4. And
really?
Yes. I was like, I want a family of 4. I know God was like, yeah, whatever, Maylin. And then as I got older, I would reduce the number as the decades came in. But then I think once I had Jaira, I feel fulfilled. For me, right? Like I was at one point where I was surrendering, and at this point I already have surrendered. Like either I have it, I'm going to be happy. I don't have it, I'm going to be happy. Like I just need to be happy regardless. And it took me almost 40 years to get to that point. So I think for people, if you're debating if you want to have a kid or not, like figure out if that's what you want for you. Right. Not because what society's telling you, not because of, no, like, is this something that you want?
Right.
And if you don't, it's okay. Like it's 100% okay.
Absolutely.
But if you want it and it happens, great. If you really want to be a mother, there's different ways to be a mother. You can be a mother by having, an adopted kid, foster kid, supporting friends that have children. Like you be that cool auntie, that cool godmother. Like you could be so many ways to be a mother, which I was blessed enough to see. And I think now that I had Jaira, I was like, oh, I always been, like you said that, like I've always been like this. Like I always have people that I love and care, and people care for me. So I guess I just didn't see it then as fully, right? So now that I have Jaira, and I appreciate everybody that loves him, because I'm like, I'm your mommy, but you have all these people that love you. And I think as the other adult in kid's life is so important, and he loves everybody that comes to see him. He's not many people come, but he does love everybody that comes to see him.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, I also had had to be intentional about, yes, I know he's on his own time frame, but what can I do as a mom to get him some resources, right?
Yeah.
To make sure that he's okay, that he's developing the way that he needs to be. So I reached out to Jeremiah's Corner, who is an awesome program here. I know the owner, right? Christina's sister. And I know her for many years. But taking Jaira there was so amazing to me. Not because she's your sister, because I've known her this long, but just how beautiful of a place she created. How beautiful of like intentional for these kiddos. And having Jaira there has such a great time. Like 2 hours on a Monday. Like we're both looking forward to it. And I don't go far. Like I'm right there nearby. Because I go to a coffee shop and I work from there and then I get him. But knowing that he's in a safe space with people that love him and that he's learning, because he's already more alert. Like for only gone twice.
Wow.
And he's already more alert and even trying to talk.
Wow.
Like I'll be like, okay, I know I'm not tripping, right?
Wow.
He's definitely more, you can see his personality more now.
Wow.
And we signed up for 6 classes. And I'm just very excited about that. And then also talking to Jessica, I signed him up for Help Me Grow.
Oh, yeah.
So that way I can have that program also supported any things that I may not see. Because as a mother, you know certain things, but you're not an expert in child development. I'm not an expert in that. So I am talking to people that are experts and knowing that whatever Jaira needs, it's available, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to give it to him. And, so that to me has been really good. So I do recommend to every mom or dad to look into Help Me Grow, so they can get the resources they need for their children. I don't care if you have had 20, like every child is different. Like look into that. And then Jeremiah's Corner is available in Worthington if you want to like get some evaluations too, because I know for me it has already been so impactful to have Jared there just for 2. Like I feel like he's in a school because he came back with like paintings. I was like, oh my God. First of all, guys, okay, I don't care. Like people think they need a break and I do, right? We all need a break from our children sometimes. But when I was leaving him for those first 2 hours, I got emotional. And I was like, these people, they love you. Like they're like, they're family to me and him. But it was like that milestone of we have reached a milestone where your child now is with other people in an educational way. Like not like my mom watches and I'm like he's now in a place where he's learning and he's gonna make new friends that are not his cousins. And I don't know, I just had a moment and I was like, you got tears in your eyes, girl, what is this? And I was just appreciative of those things that I'm able to experience with him.
Yeah.
And that to me was so amazing.
Oh, his little videos that you sent me where he's sitting in the chair with his like peers, I was like, oh my God, he looks so cute in his little class setup. And and Jessica's like the perfect person because she's truly like,
she's gifted.
She's always been an educator. Even when we were kids, she read us stories and we looked forward to it. Like, I mean, I'm the oldest and she would read like bedtime stories to all of us. Like because we shared a room at one point and she would read stories before we went to sleep. She always was so creative and wanting to play the most random things, but they were creative because she would come up with them. And so I always knew Jessica was either going to be some kind of teacher, something with like education. It was evident early on that that's what Jessica was going to be. And she's so passionate about it and she loves it. And so I love that he's going there. And I do believe that, he's going to be able to do so much there for sure.
And he's turning 2 in January, which is insane
Crazy.
To think that he's going to turn 2. He's a little tall baby. He's like 3 feet. And I'm excited to get him ready for preschool for those next things, right? So, we're going to get some of the evaluations done, get him ready. But now that he's going through to Jessica's program, I feel like it's great because it's getting him ready for the Help Me Grow. It's getting him ready for preschool because eventually I do want to have him in a daycare or a small school for like half a day.
Yeah.
So he can interact with other kids, get those social emotional, skills that he needs. And then for me to be able to focus for those hours and really get done some of these things that I need to get done.
Yeah.
For the tomorrow that belongs to God or for all of those things. And just being, how can I be more intentional? And, I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. And I feel like I read books and then you read a book later on in your life and you're like, this applies more now.
Right.
Like, and just like, what are the habits that I need to really established right now in this time in my life that are probably different than what I was doing before. So then I could be more effective. I could be more fruitful with my time with him, but also with the work that we're doing, you know, with the next steps of our journeys that we're going to take. So just kind of like reading and helping myself get in the right mindset to yes, I have a lot going on here, but I have this that I want to accomplish. And how can I be intentional today to accomplish those things, you know? And knowing that I only want one child, like, and being super grateful about that. So when I meet people now, they're like, oh, I don't have kids, I want kids. I was like, I hate to be that person. And I do, because I've been in that situation where I wanted kids and the person I was with didn't. You know, and I couldn't understand it, but it's okay because I wanted a kid, you know? So now I'm in a place where I'm actually giving people the opportunity to make a choice, right? Like when I don't think I was given some opportunities. So now it's like, if you want to be with me, that's great. But this is what I am and what I'm not willing to do. And then if the person does not want to continue that, and knowing that they're not going to convince me down the line, right? Because of my goals, you know, and Jared does not need a little sister, a little brother. Jared's fine. I keep hearing everybody trying to help me. You know, even my dad was like, Papi, calm down. He's like, he needs, you know, what if your first kid is not good? I was like, oh, the second kid will be better. Let's look at the history of children that people have had. I'm the first. I'm amazing. Christina's the first. She's incredible. I feel like one is good. You know,
one is definitely good. I think the first is probably the. Never mind. It doesn't matter.
For all, you know, guys, all the children are great if you have multiple children.
Yeah, they're all great.
But for me, one is good. And I know, like, that's just my personal thing. Like, if you want to have more, you want to have kids, that's great. But for me, one is enough. And I feel like Jaira is not missing or lacking anything, and neither am I. And in order also for me to give him the best and to accomplish what I want, intentionally, this is a decision that I'm making, you know? And I think I don't like to convince people about this either, but I'm just putting it out there like this is what it is. If you're there too, like you have one kid and you're like, look, I know many people that have only one child. They're pretty happy. Their kids are grown now and they're good to go. I say, yeah, I want to be one of those people.
And it's like what you said earlier on. I mean, because I think you said earlier on, like trying to figure out the balance, and, you know, and I think there's power in just knowing your capacity. And it's like, listen, like it's already a lot for you feeling like, you know, you have to work, you want to be a, you know, intentional mom. But, you know, obviously these worlds collide sometimes. And, you know, and the reality is that you're not ever going to be perfect in either space. And you just do the best that you can every single day. And some days is successful and you're able to hit every mark at work, every mark at your house. And then some days it's complete chaos. And you're just like, I'm failing at all this.
Epic fail.
Epic fail. And, you know, you cry in the shower and you get out and you just, you know, you just figure and you just dust yourself off and you go back out. And so, you know, I think, you know, having the maturity to say, I know my capacity. If, you know, your one is your one, and you can plan around that, and you can, you know, be convicted. You know, I think that there is, you know, I think that's a solid headspace to be in, and no one can convince you differently. And I know you, so no one's going to convince you anyway. So,
girl, like,
so you probably won't. You're not even going to date anybody that got more than one. You might consider one if he got one, but you ain't going to consider one. You're not going to consider somebody who got more than one.
No, and I wonder, you know, for parents, like eventually when we connect, we even more, or maybe as we navigate this, I definitely would love to figure out how we share this, but it is difficult to trust people with your child in this day and age. You know, I see really scary things. Like in Dominican, I was there for a couple weeks this year, and I saw some scary news of people hurting their stepchildren, whether it be a man or a woman. And that, like, my mom is, of course, like terrified. Like my mother is like paranoid about this, and putting fear, right? But to me, it's more like I don't care how much you love somebody's kid, they're not your kid, you know? And I never want Jaira to feel, you know, his father's not very involved. We call him the donor, right? So I don't want him ever to feel not wanted or loved by a partner that I choose. So I feel like that is also something that does put a lot for me to think about, is that right now I probably should focus, right? Like I date, that's not here nor there. But intentionally to create a relationship where I will eventually be with someone fully, it would take a lot because my first priority is Jaira.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to make sure that he feels safe and loved because I have created such an intentional space for him.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring drama or trauma or him not to feel safe in our space.
Yeah. And I know a lot of women, mostly women, I don't think I've yet met a man in this situation, but I've definitely met a lot of women who have intentionally stayed single. And, you know, there's always this stigma around, oh, you're never going to find a man when you have children as a single mom. And actually, I've met so many women who choose to stay single because, to your point, they're like, listen, I know my capacity and I know what my comfort level is, and I'm not interested in bringing some man around my children, you know, and right now that's my priority. It's just raising my children, doing the best that I can. And it's hard because you want that companionship. And, you know, we are not created to be by ourselves. We are created to be in companionship, but recognizing that dynamics do change. And, you know, everything's different. And so I get it. I have a blended family myself, and that has always been something that a lot of people don't even know because I think I got a very lucked. I don't know. I just lucked out in a way to where most people don't know.
Because I look alike.
Yeah. So, but I mean, but it was always a thought in the back of my mind on both sides and just kind of thinking through. So I was just like, I either have to stay in this circle or I'm going to have to also be single because I had girls then. And so it was really like, can't just be out here dating anybody. And, you know, and so, and at the end of the day, you just want peace. And a lot of people bring different baggage and drama. And when you're trying to like manage your day to day and you got children and you got a job and you got goals, the last thing I personally would ever want to entertain is a what you doing text. Like, bruh, like don't send me no memes. Don't send me no where we about to eat. Like, don't ask me no questions. And I hear a lot of my friends like who talk to me about like the dating pool is just so terrible. And it's more like just, and I think it's just because there's such a like it just feels like the roles have shifted.
Oh God.
From what I'm understanding.
Jesus.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't been in the dating pool for a long, long time, but everything I'm hearing from other people is just like the roles. Somebody told the men that the roles have shifted.
Somebody.
I don't know what book or podcast.
Some desperate people tell the men that, and unfortunately, they have believed the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things too. I think as an independent woman, though, I still believe in us being independent, but also giving men their role. Mm-hmm. Like, you are a provider, right? You are a protector, mm-hmm. right? Yes, you're to be loved, but you are to love. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where the men heard the opposite of you are to be provided to, you are to be, and it's not. So I think for me, it's hard to be with anyone that believes that the roles have changed because they haven't.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not saying this to diss anybody, because I feel like if you like as a woman to provide to a man and that makes you happy, girl, go, right? Like, do what you got to do. But just know, like Nick Cannon, a Mariah Carey article that came out not long ago.
Oh, I saw that article.
Nick Cannon, this woman gave him everything. And when you look at the two of them,
I never understood how that happened.
But that's love, she loved him, and because he said he could become whatever you want, right? Mm-hmm. So he's Nick Cannon. So he became whatever she needed him to be, right? Mm-hmm. Typical person. And when he became that, she fell in love with that. And she gave him everything she could, supported him, helped him. But then he felt less than, because that was his own insecurities. And a lot of the men issues now is that a lot of us are very fulfilled. We're happy. We're working hard. So that threatens men now, mm-hmm. right? And it threatened him to the way that he became a competition to her. When she never was competing, there was no competition. But he became a competition. He wanted to be a competition. And then instead of being with this woman that was more elevated and that could help him elevate more, which she did, he decided to go after people that were less than or had less than him, that he had to actually provide probably to, mm-hmm. so he could feel like a big man. Yeah. And I know that a lot of men are like that. they prefer to be with someone that needs them instead of being with someone that's like they're
an equal.
Yeah, an equal, or someone that you could, be a true partner to. Or maybe that she's even doing a little bit better than you in certain areas. But if you truly look at both of your strengths, she has some strengths, right? Maybe she makes more money than you, but you're a better person with the finances. So therefore, you guys together are a fantastic team. But instead of looking at that, he damaged that relationship because of that, because he couldn't handle it. Same thing with Piqué, like from Shakira and Piqué. Shakira gave this guy everything. She handled everything. But what did he do? He went to get a student. He could pay her school loans and her school, instead of being with a woman that was paying $40 million a year for him to be part of his career. So you ask yourself why. And it's because some of these men have insecurities that they have not handled. They have not gotten the mental health support that they need. And instead of working through that and being elevated with a true woman, they go and get something different, less than what they deserve what they got, but less than how they're doing, just because they want to feel like the big guy.
Yeah.
And some men are like that today, and unfortunately, some men will look at us as competition, like, oh, you have a good position, you have these assets, you have this, and instead of looking great, what a great partner, how can I contribute to her life? How can I make her life better? How can I take from her? Number one, or two, how can I bring her down because she's doing too well? How can I bring her down? Because she needs to get a little lower than me, so then I could be on top, and I just don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
And I believe that there's really great men and women out there, because we're out here. Like, I fully believe there are. I think it's just going to take some time for them to find each other. And hopefully, when the person is right and we got things at right is time, I'm in the same place I was when I was figuring out if I was going to have Jaira. Like, I'm in a great place where, like, if I find a life partner for future, amazing. That would be great. But if I don't, I'm pretty happy also. So I feel like I'm not going to feel like I'm missing out.
Because what did you say to me about, I know we're going to close here shortly, but you said to something, what did you say you were, I don't know if you said it or your friend said it. It was something like you were, what was it, auditioning? What did you say? What did you guys... Either you or she said it. I can't remember, but it was something like you were doing the research.
Yeah.
You were doing the research.
Yeah,
right?
That's dating.
Yeah.
Dating is doing the research. You're doing the research.
You're in the research phase right now.
Yeah, it's to see if this applicants,
are worth elevating to the next phase.
And if they truly are who they say they are.
Right. Yeah.
And that goes for men and women. That goes for both.
Yeah. That's a whole nother topic.
Whoever you are listening, that goes for both of y'all, And then also, I think, and the last part of this for me is, I'm seeking a lot from someone, right? And people say, like, high standards. It's just my standards, right? So some people, it's not even high enough, right? So some people, it's too high. So they're just mine. Am I meeting those standards? So I feel like sometimes, like, becoming the one, so I know what I'm expecting and what I want from a life partner. Am I that person at this point in my life, right? Like, I ask myself this question a couple of times a year. And at this point, I'm working towards that, So I feel like until I get to that, I also don't feel like I'm ready, right? So I'm doing the research, but I know that I'm not ready for the next step of that once my findings are there, because I'm still working in certain areas of my life and I want to accomplish certain things that I believe a life partner could be a distraction to. That may not help me. And I see that. I try with some of my research, I get distracted. So I have to make sure that I focus on getting the things that we have to get done this year, beginning of the year. As Christina's like, if you're looking at the video, she's like definitely nodding very, very strongly. Because I heard something. Who was it? It was this guy that I listened to, Matthew. He talks about relationships, and he was saying, or it was a prayer. It was him and somebody else talking about, like, you pray for a life partner, and this lady had this guy that they really liked each other, but he wasn't, like, ready to commit. And she was like, but I don't understand. Everything is great. Why he's not ready to commit? And the guy told her, the relationship girl, it's just this guy, this is a relationship girl. He said, well, do you have something that you're working on right now that you need to get done? And she said, yeah, God told me to write a book. And he was like, yeah. So maybe God doesn't want this relationship to be fruitful yet because you need to get the book. And if you get into this relationship, you won't finish the book. She's like, And it made me think about many things. And I was like, some things probably will not be fruitful yet until certain things are done. So I took that as a wonderful piece of advice.
Because there's some things you have to get done.
Yeah, and I think for everybody, like because people say, "Oh, I've been trying and there's nothing good," and I'm like, maybe, and that was my takeaway, but it's also my ask to people listening. If you're seeking the next career, the next position, the next move, the next relationship, is there something that God asked you to do that you have refused to do or not doing, and that is why you haven't gotten to the next step? Whether it be that relationship, that job, that career, that part of your life, the purchase of the home, is because there's still something that God asked you to do that you're not doing. So figure out what that is and then do it, and then see what doors God will open for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
Well, thank you. This was a very insightful conversation. And because we have things we have to do too. So let me hurry up and get these things done before she finds her next life partner. So thank you for tuning in. And as we like to say here at True Print for Life, it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.